A personal account of me, if you like. Before I was fully immersed in water, I wasn't interested in politics at all, not at all. And then when I was immersed in water, it was wonderful. And now, as I say, I became a councillor in May. And one of the things that I was really wanting to bring this up for was the fact about, now this is my faith, and we brought up extremist groups, and I was thinking that, obviously this is my view, but I believe that these extremist people that are asking people to join them, all these young people that have been running off to these countries and joining with ISIS and whatever. And for me, I think education, we must educate these young people. And for me, Christianity is the key because it will help them stand against it. Now, this is my belief, and I am truly with God because Jesus is Lord and Saviour. And now with the overseas, yes, I believe that with immigrants coming into the country, we can, I hope that we can arrange something to create jobs so that we can get all these people with skills working. But also, we have a responsibility for these people that are coming across, obviously, on these boats and getting into difficulties and obviously which is awful to people are dying. And we should have dedicated search and rescue teams. We should have them. And I think it's wrong that we didn't have a proper dedicated team, as this lady said here. And I think we should, as the crisis is now, we probably should have more than 2 or 3. We should have a good patrol around in this area. And I think with local GP surgeries, as I've said, I think we should reduce a lot of the fees for the universities so that we can get more doctors and nurses. And that's it, thank you.
Thank you. Can we have a brief summary statement?
Great Britain, we are strong enough to trade with the rest of the world without having to ask for Europe's permission. We are strong enough to defend ourselves against enemies foreign and domestic without having to be part of a European army and a European police force. I'm asking you to vote for a Great Britain in charge of its own waters, not one forced to watch its once proud fishing industry reduced to broken hulls lying on East Coast beaches, whilst huge foreign trawlers steal and rampage over our seas. I want you to believe in Britain, where our farmers are free to farm our land as they see fit, without having to first negotiate a minefield of EU bureaucratic red tape. I want you to believe in a country, ours, which governs itself with a parliament elected by its people, not one that is run as an EU region by unelected Brussels officials. Thank you.
Your funds.
Politics is always a mixture of the local and national, and on Thursday next you'll have a vote both for your local council and for your member of parliament. And notwithstanding the fact that I've heard loud and clear the concerns about GP provision in Oakham, I will undertake to work very closely with GPs and patients, residents after the election on that issue to see if we can have improvements. But look, you've got a very important decision. I think this country faces a choice between stability and instability, between order and chaos. We've done our best in coalition with Liberal Democrats over the last 5 years to pick up the mess left by Labour. They say cuts, 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 cuts. We've only had to reduce some budgets because Labour governments ran out of money and we were left with very little of it. I think the stability that we can offer with another 5 years in government will serve this country well, and if they don't get that stability, you're all going to pay the price. The real nightmare scenario is a parliament out of which no government can be formed, because it risks becoming an impossible choice, an insoluble choice, let's say, between the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats, versus Labour and the Scottish Nationalists. You could end up with a government dominated by a party that would bankrupt the country, working with one that would break it up. So I think this is an historic decision which requires stability both in terms of economics and in terms of the unity of our entire country.
Well, congratulations, Alan. You've nicely read out the press release prepared by Conservative Central Office, and the message has been put out in the newspapers.
Made it up as I went along.
But the reality is somewhat different. The Labour Party has made it absolutely clear there'll be no coalition with the SNP, there'll be no deal with the SNP, there'll be no compromise with the SNP. How many times do you want to say that? It's just nonsense to repeat this sort of thing constantly. They're desperate hope to try and cling on to power. What we want to do is to develop progressive policies for the whole of the country that benefit the whole of the country. You've asked me lots of questions, so I've answered well, some perhaps not so well. But I'd like to ask you a question. I'd like to ask you, what sort of country do you want to live in? What sort of country do you want your children and grandchildren to live in? Do you want to live in a country where everyone has access to a decent NHS care, both at local level and also decent hospitals? Do you want to live in a country where all children, whatever their background, have a decent schools, are in small class sizes, with trained teachers, have a decent chance to go to university by paying affordable fees? Do you want to live somewhere where people can get decent apprenticeships and get a guaranteed apprenticeship if they get their grades at school and work hard? Do you want to live in a country where working people are rewarded for genuine hard work? Where no one is exploited horrendously in the workplace, but everyone is treated fairly and paid a decent wage? Do you want to ensure that your elderly people, your grandparents, are actually looked after into old age? That there's a decent social care system there for everyone, regardless of their financial position? Well, I do, and that's why I'm voting Labour, and I hope you will too.
If you never vote for what you believe in, you'll never get it. It's a simple equation. The Green Party is standing up for new jobs, new sustainable jobs, sending a clear signal to industry to invest in clean energy, closing tax loopholes and creating greater equality. The books can be managed through measures such as financial transaction taxes and a new wealth tax. These opportunities have always been there, but appeasing the banks and the corporate press has been much more important than the suffering of millions. We've been carved up into simplistic left and right blocks. We've been told there was no option but to suck up some suffering that we had never brought about. In short, we've been sold a lie. Austerity is a con, a deliberate rewriting of our social contract, diverting the Commonwealth to those at the top. The Green Party comes with this message: exercise your democratic right to have an opinion, to voice it, act on it and fight for it every day. Whatever the outcome next week, democracy doesn't just happen every 5 years with a bit of paper and a little box. People have to be the detonator that makes politics change. I urge you next Thursday to be bold casting your vote. Vote for what you believe in. Cast your vote to create a better society that you want to see. If you want an alternative to the parties who betrayed us, vote Green.
This is a slightly strange situation because I'm not a candidate in this election, but I will. Thank you very much. But I will be voting Liberal Democrat next week because I'm a member of the party and I believe entirely in everything that we've done. And I think we have an impressive record. I know there have been a lot of issues that I personally disagree with my own party on, but I think Nick Clegg made a very courageous decision to join the government at a time of crisis, and they've done incredibly well, working with Conservative colleagues to at least try and address some of the issues that we were facing when the nation was effectively bankrupted as a result of a global economic downturn and mismanagement by the previous government. What's interesting about this election is I have genuinely no idea what's going to happen. It's the most interesting election for me as somebody who studied politics at university and been involved in the local fringes. Who knows what's going to happen? We've looked at lots of different scenarios, as has been mentioned in the closing speeches. Whatever you do, and I think most people in this room will be voting next week, just remember there are up to 6 million people who are not even on the electoral register. There's an awful high percentage of younger people who are not even going to bother to vote. Over 100 years ago, a lot of women put their lives on the line to fight for women's rights to vote. It's incredibly important, and my late grandmother always used to say that her mother would come back from the grave and haunt her if she didn't actually vote. So do cast your vote next Thursday. I'm fairly certain most people in this audience will do. I do hope that you will vote Liberal Democrat. I think there's almost too much emphasis on opinion polls, what's happening in marginal seats, and as all the candidates have outlined tonight, there are lots of issues we haven't even had a chance to address. I'd like to thank all of you for some fascinating questions. I'd particularly like to thank the Chairman, Canon Lee, for organising it. And also I'd like to thank, I'm not a candidate, but thank the other candidates, A, for firstly agreeing to let me represent Ed here, and also for their very kind words towards him in what is a very, very sad situation. And also to thank all of you, because I think it's been a fascinating debate, and I particularly enjoyed taking part. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll draw to a conclusion by just saying this. 20 years ago I was ordained to a curacy in Putney, and the church where I was a curate in 1647, Cromwell's men gathered in that church to discuss the principles of democracy. And we, 350 years ago tonight, have been doing the same thing. In the house of worship, we've been able to talk about the issues of the day. Some people think that that's not appropriate. I think it's entirely appropriate. Not only did Cromwell's men meet in Putney Church, they had their debates around the very altar at which I presided at my first Mass. It's a great symbol of the importance of faith and politics together, seeking to serve the people. And so, as all the candidates have been good enough to turn up and be gracious in their answer, I thank each of them. I thank you for being here, and I encourage you not only to vote, but contact these candidates about any further questions you've been unable to raise tonight. And I wish you a very God-blessed evening. Thank you.